Welcome to the NFL Draft Specialist Stick to Sports. I'm Joey Pulatsky.
And I'm Zach Malamud. Today we discuss the top 4 picks, the strategy for the New York teams, and give our answers to draft week's biggest questions.
Roll it. After a 5-12 season trading Christian McCaffrey and hiring a new coach in Frank Reich, the Carolina Panthers will make the opening selection in the 2023 NFL Draft. Zach, finish the sentence. With the first pick in the 2023 NFL Draft, the Carolina Panthers select
Bryce Young. It's a clear mistake if they don't pick Bryce Young. We look at Bryce Young's college stats. 2021, 66% completion, and then 4,800 yards, 47 touchdowns, 7 picks. Then 2022, a bit of a downgrade, and 3,300 yards, 32 touchdowns, and 5 picks on 64% completion percentage. I mean, it's a clear mistake if this pick is not Bryce Young. He's the best quarterback in the draft for a team that really needs a quarterback. He has the accuracy, the playmaking ability, and the smarts of a great quarterback. I think the one problem for shorter QBs like Tua Tagovailoa, Bryce Young, as well as Kyler Murray, if they can't, the biggest thing is they can't do too much because they're obviously going to get hurt. They're going to be put in bad situations, and it's going to hurt them in the end.
Yeah, I mean, I think without a doubt, Bryce Young's the number one. How he is both on the field and off the field. I mean, you see not only his skills in the pocket and getting out of the pocket, but also his leadership skills. A guy coached by Nick Saban and coming out of Alabama, you can't say enough good things about him. But I also think as clear-cut of a number one as he is, and yes, I think everybody knows he's going number one. He's about minus 1,500 right now on the Vegas line to go number one. It's not even a debate who's going number one. I don't know how strong of an NFL career he's going to have. In my eyes, I think this is a decently weak draft class. But if you're looking at the draft class as a whole, Bryce Young far and away number one, and it seems pretty clear going into it.
The number 2 selection in this year's draft belongs to the Houston Texans. Houston have added and retained a number of players on offense in the last couple of months. The extension of tackle Laramie Tunsil and the additions of running back Devin Singletary and tight end Dalton Schultz definitely stand out. Joey, do you think Houston adds a quarterback here or goes elsewhere at number 2?
I think we're going to see another quarterback here. And you see here the Texans quarterback since Deshaun Watson all struggling. Davis Mills, Tyrod Taylor, Kyle Allen, and Jeff Driscoll. No 4 of those guys compared to who they're going to with the number 2 pick here, who I think in C.J. Stroud out of Ohio State. I think it's a pretty clear number 2 guy that you have with how solid of a passer he was at Ohio State. I think it's a pretty obvious who they go with here. But again, with how this division is, it's really the Texans are a pretty strong quarterback away from being a playoff contending team. The Titans are there with Derrick Henry, of course, but the Colts and the Jags, it's really a pretty wide open division there in the AFC South.
Yeah, I agree. They have to go quarterback here, and I'm not a big believer in C.J. Stroud. I actually think he's going to be a bust in the NFL. I know he's shown flashes, but his decision-making at some points last season and the season before have been absolutely horrendous at Ohio State. It's a process for Houston because Stroud had a ridiculous receiving core while he was at Ohio State as well.
Yeah, he's not going to have anybody on Houston who's as good as Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Exactly.
The Arizona Cardinals were considered one of the stronger teams in the NFL heading into last season. Now on the heels of a 4-13 record, the second to worst record in the NFC behind only the Chicago Bears, and firing head coach Cliff Kingsbury, the Redbirds will look to continue to keep building their future with the 3rd pick this year. Zach, who do you see Arizona scooping up this year at number 3?
So Arizona is actually very open to trading down. As we look at the odds here, obviously Will Anderson, number 1, Jalen Carter, number 2, Christian Gonzalez, the cornerback, number 3, Tyree Wilson, an edge rusher at number 4, and then the field or they trade the pick is plus 650. I think if they don't end up trading down, they have to go best available. And the guy at the top of the list there, Will Anderson, edge rusher out of Alabama. There's nothing bad to say about Will Anderson. Led the SEC in sacks the last 2 seasons, 17.5 of them in 2021. That was the most in college football. I mean, if they have to go best available, Will Anderson has to be top of that list.
I'm with you. I think it's Will Anderson here, and I think of this draft class, he has the best NFL career as well, just because not only was he so strong for Alabama this past year, but if you look at the year before, he kind of proved that this 1 year wasn't a fluke. Continuing to develop is obviously a big sign that you need from guys out of the college ranks who you're looking to use really a franchise cornerstone type pick on here. I think Will Anderson's a guy that's developed nicely these past couple of years, has been everything you could ask for at Alabama, and continues to develop for the Arizona Cardinals.
Moving north to Indianapolis, where the Colts have possession of the number 4 overall pick. Indy added linebacker Samson Ebukam this offseason, but have a question at quarterback with Gardner Minshew and Nick Foles on the roster. Joey, a lot of quarterbacks still on the board here, but will one of them fall to Indy?
Yeah, I think one of them does fall here to the Indianapolis Colts. See here the Colts number 4 pick odds. Will Levis leads it. Anthony Richardson and Bryce Young behind him. Would be shocked if Bryce Young falls as far. C.J. Stroud could possibly be there, and then the rest of the field or trade the pick at the back end there at plus 1150. I'm going here with the second option on the board. Anthony Richardson, I think, goes off the board here to the Indianapolis Colts. He's not really a guy that blew me away at Florida. Watched him struggle in a handful of big-time SEC games against the likes of Tennessee, Alabama. If you can't handle those kind of defenses in the 3:30 spot on Saturday on CBS, you're not going to be able to handle NFL-level defenses. I think whoever they get here doesn't turn the franchise around, but I think it ends up being Anthony Richardson.
So I understand the hype about Anthony Richardson. I actually think they're going to take the guy at the top of the list, Will Levis. The Colts have consistently taken pocket passers. They haven't gone with a mobile quarterback just yet since the Peyton Manning era. I think they go with Levis here.
We're going to take a quick break here on Stick to Sports. Up next, we'll take a look at the New York football teams and discuss draft week's biggest storylines. Stay tuned on WTOP 10.
Put the keys down, Kevin.
But I'm gonna drive home.
There are several warning signs present that you shouldn't be driving.
I guess I have really been looking for love in this dating app. Yep, I'm definitely gonna call a ride home.
We'll deep dive into our feelings in our Real Talk segment. Stay tuned because it's about to get real.
What's going on?
Yeah, dude, we go on at like 11:30. It's like
No.
What do you mean no?
It's 10:30.
10:30?
Matt, it's 10:30.
What do you mean it's 10:30?
Hey, don't touch that. That's my ladder.
Hey, man.
Whoa. Did you know this book was already discounted 10%?
Wow.
Wow.
Get a close up of that one.
Broadcast news.
Look at that.
Can we go back inside? I want to sleep in the studio again.
Welcome back to Stick to Sports. Let's keep the NFL Draft special rolling, but let's shift over to the New York teams. The first Empire State squad to pick will be the Jets with the 13th pick. Zach, this is your team. Who do you want your team to go grab?
So the Jets, I mean, there's a lot of options here. As we see the Jets draft picks this year, 2 second-rounders, so they could try and move around a little bit, or they can stay put with the 4th and the 5th round there as well. Got most of their picks, and they have a lot of options here. Joe Douglas loves his linemen. Wouldn't be surprised if they went with a lineman. In my own mock draft that I actually made, Joey, I have them taking Devon Witherspoon, the cornerback out of Illinois. If he drops to them, I think the Jets should be all over him. This is a guy that could go in the top 10, but if things fall the Jets' way, they should definitely pounce on him.
I'm with you. If they have the chance to lock up another cornerback who's going to mirror Sauce, that would be an unbelievable secondary. I think with the Aaron Rodgers situation, the Jets situation, you want to bring in another wide receiver to make it more appealing, especially considering they lost out on the Odell sweepstakes. I think Jackson Smith and Jigba's available here. I see him going to the Jets. You want to make this as appealing of a situation to bring Rodgers in. You want to make him as happy of a camper as you can. Again, Odell's not coming. Jackson Smith and Jigba is a guy that I think could very well be a franchise wide receiver. After a pleasantly surprising playoff appearance and what most people expected to be a rebuilding year, the New York Giants make their first pick at number 25 this year. With Daniel Jones locked up, Saquon's future unknown, and a bare-bones wide receiving core. Zach, where do you think the Giants go with this pick?
So you mentioned the bare-bones wide receiving core. I think they go wide here. The Giants have they have a pick in every round. Really not a lot of trades, and they're staying put at where they are. So they have a lot of options. I think they end up, if a wide receiver falls to them, they have to pounce on them. Zay Flowers is there, Jordan Addison, Jalen Hyatt out of Tennessee. A lot of options there. I think they go with any one of them. If one of them falls, I think the Giants have to go with it. They could also go best available. They're in that type of situation. There's some good offensive and defensive linemen later in the first round.
I think they go Jordan Addison here if he's available. My biggest concern with that is that he may go just a few picks earlier. I think if he's not available there, I think they go with Jalen Hyatt, a guy that I would love to see come into the Giants. But again, with how this team was last year, Danny Dimes locked up, Saquon's still up in the air, but the wide receiving core has to be the focus here for the Giants. And again, so many picks here they go with. The final New York team to make a first-round selection will be the Bills, rounding it out at number 27. Of course, a franchise quarterback in Josh Allen and plenty of pieces in place to go win a Super Bowl. Zach, who do you see as the last step to get the Bills over the hump?
So, of course, if Bijan Robinson is available, the Bills will have to go with him. I don't think he will be. They're at 27. Like the Giants, they have a pick in every round, so they can go a lot of different options. I mean, like I said, if Bijan Robinson's there, they have to pick him. They could try and trade up as well for Bijan Robinson. I don't see them end up doing that. They're also a team that can go best available. A horrendous offensive line down the stretch last year. They could replenish there.
I think they go with Bijan Robinson here, to your point. I think the Bills, I've been saying this for years now, they're a running back away from going and winning the Super Bowl. Guys like Singletary, Cook, Hines aren't going to get it done. The wide receiving core is locked. The franchise quarterback, of course, just need a running back to complete the offense.
Switching gears to some of the biggest questions in this year's draft, starting with Georgia defensive tackle Jalen Carter. Carter pleaded no contest to reckless driving and racing charges last month, but this is a player who many believed was the top prospect on draft boards after the college football playoff. Joey, how far will Carter fall, and where do you have him landing?
Zach, in all honesty, with the precedent we've seen in these past few years, I don't think this situation is going to immensely impact his draft stock. You see Jalen Carter team draft odds here. Bears, Lions, Eagles are your top three. Then it goes Seahawks and Falcons with a bit of longer shots. In my eyes here, you look at situations like Laramie Tunsil, of course, is the biggest draft scandal that comes to my eyes. Brandon Miller with the Alabama basketball team this year as well. In terms of off-the-field, off-court issues, it doesn't seem to be that big of a thing with teams in these past 5-6 years. I don't think he falls too far down in the first round.
Yeah, I don't think he'll drop much. I think he goes just outside the top 5. Detroit is number 2 on that list. I have him going number 6. I wouldn't be surprised if Seattle, 4 on that list, picked him at number 5. They could go either way, maybe Tyree Wilson or Jalen Carter. Another big question is the destination of Texas running back Bijan Robinson, who looks to become the next star back in the NFL. Robinson is getting comparisons to Saquon Barkley and Josh Jacobs, putting up the second most yards from scrimmage in college football a year ago. Joey, there's still the question of who is going to take the chance on him. Who do you think it's going to be?
Like I said just a couple minutes ago, I think it's going to be the Buffalo Bills here. And you see Bijan Robinson's scrimmage stats. Of course, a monstrous 2022, almost 2,000 yards, 20 touchdowns, a little under 300 carries as well. This is a guy that I think part of the most impressive part about him is, yes, he's probably the number 1 running back in this class, but he still doesn't seem like a Saquon-type level draft prospect. This is still a guy that's going to carry a chip on his shoulder. I think he can still have a pretty decent NFL career.
Yeah, I think if he gets to 15, there's a good chance that a team goes up to grab him. Consensus has him falling to the late first round, Buffalo, Dallas, Philly, I think they would have to trade up for him. Finally, there are a ton of wide receivers in this year's class who fit perfectly in NFL offenses. Some of the biggest names on the board include Jackson Smith-Njigba, Jordan Addison, and Quentin Johnson. Joey, which wide receiver will be the first one off the board?
I think Jackson Smith-Njigba is the first one off the board. The favorite here to go, first wide receiver to go off the board. Jackson Smith-Njigba only won at favorite at odds at -200. Quentin Johnson, Zay Jones, Jordan Addison shortly after that. Then you go a long shot there in Jalen Hyatt. But I think Jackson Smith-Njigba is the favorite. Again, I see him going to the Jets and make that Aaron Rodgers situation a little bit sweeter.
Yeah, I think it has to be Smith-Njigba. The one worry was the injury of last season. He missed almost all of the season. But there's something about Ohio State wide receivers, Marvin Harrison Jr., Jackson Smith-Njigba, Wilson, and Olave a year ago. I mean, these guys are dangerous. Quentin Johnson could be a guy to watch out for, though, a big red zone threat. We have to take a quick break, but when we come back, Joey will be joined by Ben Diamond. Don't go anywhere. You're watching Stick to Sports on WTOP Tech.
The Kind of Late Show with Chloe and Anna. Like licorice, Twizzlers, absolutely nasty.
The thought of turkey is just nauseating.
I think you're wrong, is what I think.
You think I'm wrong a lot of time.
I do think you're wrong a lot.
Look at that. It's so sad.
Here's our weather elements and so Saturday. And that's all.
Welcome back to Stick to Sports. It's time for the fast break. Joining me now is Ben Diamond, one of our producers. Benny D, what do we got?
Thanks, Joey. Zay Flowers, a projected late first-round wide receiver, had an unordinary pre-draft visit with the Kansas City Chiefs. Instead of meeting with the team brass in Kansas City, Flowers was sent to work out with their star quarterback Patrick Mahomes. If Flowers were to be drafted by the Chiefs late in the first round, he could fill the void that was left when Juju Smith-Schuster signed with the Patriots. It also gives Mahomes another young star wide receiver to build a strong connection with. What do you think of this meeting, and do you think he could end up with the Chiefs?
Yeah, Ben, I think this is a very interesting situation. And here we see Zay Flowers' stats, and of course a big 2020 going just over 1,000 yards, almost 80 catches, 12 touchdowns. It's an interesting situation. You know, you usually see your fair share of pro days. You see guys working out with either quarterbacks from their school or alumni or whatever it is. You don't usually see guys going and working out with the actual quarterback of the team they're looking at, and let alone, you know, the best quarterback in football like Patrick Mahomes. I definitely think that there is a very good chance the Chiefs go pick him if they were impressed with what Patrick Mahomes saw from him. But again, I think just kind of learning the playbook and getting him involved with the quarterback is a very interesting situation.
Yeah, I think it'd be very interesting. Zay Flowers, my bad. 5'9", 182 at the combine. That's what he came in at. He he's small, but we've seen small wide receivers make an impact. Devonta Smith, Tyreek Hill, and he's fast. So he could really fill in that Tyreek Hill hole that the Chiefs obviously didn't miss this past season. I know you and Zach both discussed the early picks as well as some of the quarterbacks who are most likely going to go during those picks, but I was wondering which of them has the highest ceiling in your eyes, Joey. You have the consensus top 2 quarterbacks in Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud, but you never know what you'll get out of the other QBs as they develop into actual NFL quarterbacks. If you had to pick one to say they have the highest ceiling and the best chance of being called the top QB in the draft 10 years down the line, which one do you think that would be?
Yeah, Ben, in all honesty, I mean, before I give my opinion here, the top 5 draft quarterbacks, according to CBS, Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, Anthony Richardson, Will Levis, all guys we've discussed. Hendon Hooker there at the bottom, number 5. That's what I'm going with. My pick, I'm going to clip this one and hold on to it for the next 10, 15 years. I think Hendon Hooker is the number 1 quarterback in terms of longevity in this. What he's shown he can do in big games. You look at that game against Alabama this year, shredded the top defense in the country. Of course, a season-ending knee injury late in the season, but the guy had an unbelievable year, doesn't really get proper credit for it, and of course, go Vols.
Yeah, the injury certainly did not help his draft stock, and I think it made his name in the conversation kind of fall to the wayside, but certainly could be a big name that we see down the line. I like Anthony Richardson. I know you mentioned earlier not really being a huge fan, but the size and speed being like Josh Allen really could create some buzz, and I think we could see something, especially since right now he's not really kind of seen as that guy like Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud. Moving over to the Dallas Cowboys as they come off another disappointing playoff run, getting ousted from the playoffs by the San Francisco 49ers for the 2nd straight season. Heading into the draft after releasing Ezekiel Elliott and trading for Brandon Cooks, this Dallas team looks to once again gear up for the next season through the draft. However, there are a lot of holes within the depth chart that need to be filled with only so many picks to go around. Joey, what holes do you think Dallas will fill in the first 3 rounds of the draft?
I think the Cowboys primarily focus on wide receivers, and you see the top picks they have here. Of course, their first pick coming between the Giants and the Bills picks, which we discussed. They'll be the 26th overall, then picks in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. I think they look wide receiver. I mean, they let go of Ezekiel, I think, probably because they're pretty comfortable with what Tony Pollard showed. If you bring in a strong number 2 behind CD, and I mean, Ben, you're the Cowboys guy. Give me your opinion. You watch all their games. Well, what do you think of the Cowboys?
I mean, I would like to see interior D-line. Obviously, you can get interior D-line anywhere in the draft. You don't have to go straight first round interior D-line, but that is obviously an important factor that they need to take into account for the run game. Probably 2nd or 3rd round, I would imagine the interior D-line will get addressed. Cornerback probably around the 2nd round, but I would have to agree. Probably O-line or wide receiver. Maybe running back, but probably not as likely as the wide receiver is in the 1st round.
By what you're saying, it sounds like they're a whole lot further from a Super Bowl than some Cowboys fans might think. That's a lot of holes. We'll take a quick break here on Stick to Sports. Thanks again to Ben for the fast break. When we come back, Zach, Ben, and I will go into extra innings. Don't go anywhere. You're watching Stick to Sports on WTOP 10.
With sports and news and what to do, we're here for you. It's your TV, you're watching WTOP. Your TV, thanks for watching WTOP.
Welcome back to Stick to Sports. It is time for this week's edition of Extra Innings, and we're going to get these standings up. I know for a fact I am still in last place, but we have our standings.
Do we have the standings?
Do we have the standings? Yes,
Yeah.
we do. Zach still in first after
awful week.
Bad week for everybody
Horrid week.
everybody under 500.
I hope nobody was tailing.
But I should be hedged every single week.
Yeah, all of the viewers,
be
aka Zach Malamud's family. I hope they weren't telling.
Yeah, I hope not. But first for this week, Lightning at Maple Leafs. The Maple Leafs are favored minus 160. Zach, why are the Maple Leafs favored?
So I think they're favored. I think they're going to end up winning this game. I think this series is going 7 games. I think the Lightning will end up winning in the end. They'll bounce back at home, though, the Maple Leafs.
I think the Lightning get it done. Just based off what I saw from the Leafs last night, you can't show me they turned it around this quickly.
Yeah, I mean, losing Bunting, I mean, with that big hit, I mean, I'm going to go with the Lightning as well, taking game 2 of the series. Rangers at Devils. Devils favored, also another team that got pretty badly beaten in game 1. Devils favored minus 130. Joey, who you got in this matchup?
The Rangers, easily. Shout out to Brandon Ludwig.
I'm going with the Rangers because it's going to be a reverse jinx. I might end up winning it, depending on what it is. Go Islanders, even though they lost.
Yeah, I don't really feel good picking either of the teams, so if they can both lose, that'd be great. But I'll go with both of you guys because you guys have been better than me. Rangers taking this game 2. 76ers at Nets in the NBA playoffs. 76ers favored minus 4.5 in game 3. Zach, who you got?
I'm going with the Sixers here. I mean, the Nets are pretty bad. This series is already over. I mean, yeah, they're going back to Barclays, but the Sixers. Embiid's too good.
Yeah, it's the Sixers. I mean, the Nets have just completely laid down in these first couple games. It's not even going to be close.
Yeah, I mean, once the Nets lost KD and Kyrie, I feel like they lost all really a chance of moving on forward in any series, in any playoff matchup.
I mean, they don't have a superstar.
Yeah,
Mikal Bridges is good, but there's no superstar.
He's great, but he's not going to be the guy that's going to bring him over the hump. So I think I would have to agree with both of you again. 76ers taking game 3. Moving over to the Western Conference, Suns at Clippers. Suns favored minus 2.5 in game 3. Joey, who you got?
I think this is one of the more interesting series there is the NBA playoffs. As big of a Russ Westbrook fan as I am, I think the Suns get it done just because of the secondary scoring option behind KD with Devin Booker there, as opposed to the Clippers having Eric Gordon. I think the Suns just a better two-headed monster.
Interesting. Give me the Clippers. I mean, even without Paul George, they proved that with Westbrook and Kawhi, they can give trouble to the Suns. There you go. They could give trouble to the Suns. I'm going with the Clippers. I mean, on their home floor.
I really like Westbrook. I really like the Clippers team. I like Kawhi, but I think the Suns are the better team, and that's just, I mean, right there. They should be the ones that I feel like they'll be the ones to take this even at home or on the road in LA. So now let's move over to our locks of the week. Zach, what lock do you have for us?
New York, New York. Let's go Knicks, baby. -2 on Friday. They're going to beat up the Cavs. If you think the Cavs are going into the Garden and beating the Knicks, you're crazy. -2, Knicks. Give me it.
I'm going to stay with you on the New York theme, but it's the Yankees tomorrow night, -1.5. They'll be slight underdogs in the Bronx. Nestor Cortez on the mound as one of the best home ERAs across all MLB pitchers since the start of last year. And again, Judge versus Ohtani week. The Yankees aren't dropping this series in the Bronx.
Zach and I didn't discuss what our locks were this week, so I put the Cavaliers and Knicks as well as my lock. However, I did put 2 options. So I'm going to go with my second option for this one. I'm going to take the over to 11.5.
Benny D's overs, man.
I'm taking the over. We saw a defensive masterclass in game 2. I'm expecting an offensive outburst in game 3, and that's exactly what we're getting with this over.
So you're telling me Brunson's dropping 50?
That's what I'm hearing. That's what I'm hearing from my sources.
There's 2 ways a gambler thinks. If you have a defensive showdown, it goes either, okay, they're going to keep doing that, or, okay, the water's going to find its level. That'll do it for Extra Innings. That's all the time we have on today's episode of Stick to Sports. Be sure to tune in Wednesday, May 3rd, right here on WTOP 10.